There was a time, and it really wasn't that long ago, when learning to navigate a new city meant, like, actively wrestling with a physical map.
Oh, yeah, like those massive paper ones that you could never fold back up correctly.
Exactly. You had to physically unfold this giant piece of paper on your steering wheel, figure out how to orient yourself to north, identify the actual landmarks around you, and genuinely memorize the route.
Right, because if you made a wrong turn, you had to actively figure out how to correct it on your own.
Yeah, you couldn't just wait for a recalculating voice.
Hmm.
There was a mandatory, um, I guess you could call it a productive struggle, built directly into the process of just getting from point A to point B.
Which is actually how you learn. You were forced to build a three-dimensional mental model of your environment just to, survive the trip.
But then, obviously, we all got GPS on our phones,
Yeah.
and suddenly a calm, robotic voice just tells you exactly when to turn left, when to turn right.
Oh.
And, I mean, it is undeniably incredibly efficient.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lifesaver.
It is. But if your phone battery dies halfway to your destination, you realize pretty quickly that you have absolutely no idea where you are. Like you haven't internalized the map at all.
No, you haven't built that mental model. You've entirely offloaded the cognitive work of navigation to a machine.
Right.
And as a direct result of that, your own internal navigation skills have just atrophied. The tool didn't just help you, it literally replaced a function of your brain.
And that tension, that push and pull between incredible digital efficiency and the sort of quiet erosion of our own internal skills, that is exactly what brings us to the focus of today's deep dive. So, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Today we have a really fascinating mission for you. We are exploring a highly relevant new research paper. It's by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover, and it's titled The Agency Gap in AI-Assisted Higher Education.
Which is such a timely piece of research.
It really is, because right now, generative AI is everywhere. I mean, it's in university classrooms, it's in study groups, it's deeply embedded in our daily workflows.
Yeah, it has fundamentally moved from an experimental novelty, something we just play with on the weekends, to being a routine piece of infrastructure in our lives.
Exactly. So the big question for you, the listener, is no longer whether you use AI. Most of us do, whether we explicitly realize it or not. The question is how you use it.
Are you using it to learn, or are you using it to avoid learning?
Right. Is this technology making us passive consumers, just kind of blindly following the GPS of knowledge?
Mm.
Or is there a way to use it that actually fosters deep engagement and critical thinking? Okay, let's unpack this, because what Dr. Westover's paper really gets into is, honestly, it's a battle for intellectual ownership when you are working alongside algorithms.
Yeah, and to truly grasp the stakes of that battle, we have to recognize that AI is forcing a fundamental paradigm shift in how we understand learning itself. For decades, educational psychology has relied on this concept called distributed cognition.
Wait, distributed cognition? You mean like the idea that our brains don't just work in isolation?
That's the core of it, yeah. The theory argues that human thinking doesn't just happen inside the isolated skull. Cognition is spread across our environments, our peers, and our tools.
Okay, so it's not just a me thing, it's a me and everything around me thing.
Exactly. Think about a spider's web. The web isn't just catching food, it's actually part of the spider's cognitive apparatus, sensing vibrations.
Oh, wow.
Right. For humans, a notebook is an extension of our memory. A calculator is a piece of distributed cognition.
So going back to earlier, a physical map is distributed cognition.
Yes, absolutely. But AI completely breaks the traditional mold of a tool.
How so?
Well, traditional tools like calculators or maps, they just sit there waiting for you to use them. They are inert. Generative AI, on the other hand, it talks back.
Yeah, it really does. Sometimes a bit too confidently.
Exactly. It suggests framings, it produces novel arguments, it mimics human reasoning and conversational cadence.
Yeah.
We are suddenly in a world where learning theories have to account for a partner that can actively shape our cognitive pathways without us even realizing it.
So to figure out if this talking tool is causing cognitive atrophy, we first have to look at the power dynamics in the room. Like, who is actually in charge, the human or the machine?
And this brings us right to the core hypothesis of the paper, which is the agency gap. The researchers propose that the impact of AI on your brain isn't about the technology itself, it's about the perceived distance between two very different types of users.
Okay, lay it out for us.
On one end of the gap, you have students who feel they retain full control, initiative, and decision-making power when using AI. They have high agency.
Right.
And then on the other end, you have users who feel passive, dependent, or just driven by the algorithm. They have low agency.
It's not a simple binary then. It's not just like you have agency or you don't. It's a sliding scale based on the nature of your interaction with the prompt box.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is the concept of human-AI co-agency. Now, the word co-agency might make it sound like a 50-50 partnership, like a buddy cop movie.
Right, like equal.
But the paper makes it explicitly clear that it absolutely shouldn't be. AI lacks genuine understanding. It lacks intention. And most importantly, it lacks epistemic responsibility.
Epistemic responsibility, meaning the AI doesn't actually care if it's telling the truth because it literally doesn't know what truth is.
Exactly.
It's just predicting the next word in a sequence. It can't be fired or held morally accountable if it hallucinates a fake legal case or like a fake medical fact.
Right. The AI provides the raw material, the text, the options, the generative feedback, but the human learner must maintain executive control over the goal setting and the final judgment. If you outsource that final judgment to the machine, you've crossed over into low agency.
Which brings us right back to the GPS analogy, right?
Yeah.
Having high agency with AI is like using a GPS, but you are still actively reading the road signs. You're the pilot.
Yes, you're engaged.
You might see a sign for a cool landmark and decide to just ignore the algorithm to take a scenic detour because you know you are ultimately in charge of the journey. But low agency AI use is like falling asleep in a self-driving car. You are merely a passenger. You're letting the AI do the epistemic heavy lifting, maybe just copying its outputs verbatim without a single second thought.
And the researchers point out that when you are the pilot, the AI functions as a cognitive prosthesis. It amplifies your existing capacity.
A prosthesis. I like that.
But when you are the passenger, the AI induces cognitive offloading. You succumb to automation bias.
Let's pause on automation bias for a second. What is actually happening in our heads when that kicks in?
Well, the human brain is incredibly greedy for energy, so it has evolved to be a calorie-saving organ. It loves heuristics or mental shortcuts.
We're naturally a little lazy.
Essentially, yes. When a machine outputs a beautifully formatted, highly confident paragraph of text in 3 seconds, your brain takes a shortcut. It subconsciously assumes, oh, this looks authoritative. It was generated instantly by a computer, so it must be correct.
Right, it looks the part.
Exactly. Automation bias is that psychological phenomenon where humans naturally favor suggestions from automated decision-making systems and just ignore contradictory information made without automation, even if the non-automated info is correct.
That really begs the question, though. If our brains naturally want to conserve calories, and we want to be the pilots of our own learning, what exactly do we have to do differently when we are sitting in the driver's seat? According to this research, the answer lies in actively fighting our own biology by basically hitting the brakes.
Yeah, the researchers call it the cognitive brake. The paper introduces this through the concept of reflection, which acts as the vital mediator between using AI and actually thinking critically.
Okay, so reflection is the key.
Yes. They draw on Kember's levels of engagement to explain this. At the lowest level, you have habitual action.
Which is the passenger mode.
Exactly. It's treating the AI like a magic 8-ball. Think about how a magic 8-ball actually works. You have a vague question, you shake it, a random answer floats to the surface, and you accept it without knowing how it got there.
Right, you're not questioning the fluid inside the 8-ball.
No, there is no thought process involved. In the context of AI, this is a prompt and paste mentality. You ask a question, you accept the first output, and you move on. Routine, unreflective application.
And then at the highest level, you have what Kember calls critical reflection.
Yes, this is the deep interrogation of assumptions. And the researchers found a really crucial link here, just feeling like you are in control, having that perceived agency. It doesn't magically cause critical thinking on its own. It works through reflective engagement.
Okay, so agency alone isn't enough.
No. Reflection is the mandatory bridge. You have to force a pause, evaluate the ideas, consider alternative perspectives, and consciously integrate the AI's output with your existing knowledge base.
Okay, but I have to push back here, or at least admit some confusion on behalf of, human nature.
Sure.
Doesn't the very design of generative AI actively discourage this cognitive break? I mean, think about the user interface of these platforms. They're incredibly fast, they're highly fluent, and they write with an overwhelmingly confident, authoritative tone.
They do.
It feels like the technology is meticulously designed to seduce us into passive acceptance. It literally wants us to fall asleep in the self-driving car, so we just keep paying the subscription fee.
The researchers absolutely acknowledge that danger. The fluency of AI is a massive cognitive trap. And this raises an important question. How do we resist a tool that is designed to be completely frictionless?
Right.
The paper's answer is a concept called epistemic vigilance.
Epistemic vigilance. That sounds like a mental immune system.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it, actually. Just like your biological immune system has to recognize a foreign virus to fight it off, epistemic vigilance means your brain has to constantly tag AI outputs as potentially infected with errors.
So you're treating it with suspicion from the get-go.
You have to. You can't blindly absorb the information. To engage critically, learners must explicitly view AI as a fallible, probabilistic text generator, not some omniscient oracle handing down universal truth.
So critical thinking isn't just some automatic byproduct of using the tool. You don't become a better thinker just by logging into the platform and typing a prompt.
No, not at all. Critical thinking only emerges when we reflectively interrogate what the AI produces. If you aren't iterating on your prompts, verifying the AI's claims against outside sources, and hunting for contradictions in the AI's logic, you aren't doing the cognitive work. The reflection itself is the work.
Okay, so we know that reflection is this crucial bridge. Hitting the cognitive brake and acting like an immune system is what allows us to process information critically. But how does this rigorous stop-and-question process actually make us feel about our own competence? Because this is where the paper's global data reveals some massive surprises.
Yeah, the researchers didn't just look at this dynamic in a vacuum. They surveyed 309 university students across two very different higher education contexts. One group was based in the UK and another group was based in China.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the data showed a huge divergence in how reflection impacts something called academic self-concept. Now, for you listening, academic self-concept is basically a measurement of how confident and capable students feel about their own academic abilities.
Right.
In the UK sample, when students engaged in that deep, reflective cognitive braking, it significantly boosted their academic self-concept. Questioning the AI made them feel smarter and more capable. But in the China sample, reflection had absolutely no significant association with boosting their self-concept.
And we need to be very careful with this data. The paper explicitly cautions against making sweeping cultural generalizations. They emphasize that these are exploratory patterns based on localized institutional contexts, not homogeneous national stereotypes.
Right, totally.
But with that major caveat in place, they explore some fascinating pedagogical frameworks that might explain the stark divergence in the data.
Because my first instinct when reading that was, wait, are the students in China learning less from the reflection? But the paper makes it clear that's absolutely not the case. It's just a totally different psychological way of evaluating oneself.
Exactly. In many Western educational cultures, achievement is often heavily linked to self-enhancement. Reflection is used as a tool to validate your capability.
Ah, I see.
When you critique an AI's output, you are demonstrating your mastery over the machine. The internal monologue is, I found the flaw in this advanced algorithm, therefore I am a highly competent thinker.
But in the other context, it's a completely different philosophy.
Yes. In some Confucian heritage educational traditions, the historical focus is often placed on self-improvement and effort attribution. To put that in everyday language, it's a philosophy of the grind.
The grind. Okay.
In this framework, reflection isn't a tool to celebrate your progress or pat yourself on the back. It's a diagnostic tool used to identify your own gaps, locate your inadequacies, and find areas for future growth.
So it's not a lack of learning. It's just a completely different interpretive script.
Right.
I mean, if I am using reflection specifically to hunt for my own blind spots, it makes perfect sense that it wouldn't immediately spike my feelings of academic supremacy.
Right.
I'm actively reminding myself of how much more I have to learn.
Yeah.
Finding a flaw just means I need to study harder.
And there are other systemic factors at play in the data, too. The paper notes the impact of modesty bias. In certain cultures, students might purposefully understate their abilities on a survey because self-promotion is socially discouraged.
Or reference group effects. I mean, if you are in a brutally competitive academic environment where everyone around you is a literal genius, your self-concept might be lower simply because your baseline for comparison is so incredibly high.
Yes.
You might be brilliant, but compared to your study group, you feel average.
Exactly. And the ultimate takeaway from this data isn't about which group is right or wrong. It's that the psychological outcomes of using AI deeply depend on the cultural and institutional water we are swimming in. The tool does not exist in a vacuum.
Now, if cultural background completely rewires how we measure our own success, it makes me wonder if it also changes the starting line. Like, do these different groups even begin interacting with AI the same way? The data uncovered a sort of gatekeeper effect that addresses exactly this.
Yeah, the researchers looked at AI literacy as a potential moderator for agency. Now, AI literacy encompasses a few things: your technical competence, like do you actually know how the prompt engineering works, as well as your ethical awareness and your evaluative capacity.
Like knowing if it hallucinated.
Right. Do you know its limitations regarding data privacy or hallucination rates?
And the two groups showed two completely contrasting paths to achieving that high agency we talked about earlier. In the China sample, AI literacy acted as a rigid gatekeeper. It was a strict prerequisite. Students needed to feel technically confident they needed high AI literacy before they felt authorized to exercise agency, take control, and engage reflectively with the tool.
And this reflects a pedagogical norm of mastery before experimentation. You learn the rules thoroughly before you are allowed to break them or play with them. You need the foundation to feel confident enough to challenge the machine.
But in the UK sample, AI literacy didn't moderate the relationship at all. It didn't act as a gatekeeper in the slightest. Students in the UK sample exercised agency and tried to take control of the AI regardless of their formal literacy levels. They just dove headfirst into the deep end.
Yeah, and this aligns much more closely with a learning by doing or trial and error approach. It's a highly exploratory, sometimes chaotic stance.
Just figure it out as you go.
Exactly. You don't wait for formal mastery. You just start typing prompts, see what happens, and reflect on the fly based on the messy results.
This proves a critical point for anyone listening, whether you're a student, a mid-level manager, or, a CEO trying to roll out an enterprise AI tool to your entire company. Neither of these paths is inherently wrong, but it proves that a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching AI is absolutely destined to fail.
Oh, completely.
If a CEO tries to force a jump-in and break things mentality on a department that culturally requires mastery before experimentation, those employees will just freeze up. They won't use it.
Or feel too insecure.
Right. And conversely, if you force a rigid 3-month technical literacy course on a group of creatives who just want to learn by doing, they will totally disengage.
The context dictates the most effective on-ramp to AI adoption. You have to meet the learners or the employees where their epistemic norms already reside. You cannot fight their baseline psychology.
So what does this all mean? We've talked about pilots and passengers, automation bias, cognitive breaks, cultural interpretive scripts, and gatekeepers. Let's take all of these academic findings out of the university context and bring them right into the daily lives of you, the listener. How can we apply Dr. Westover's framework for agentic AI-enhanced pedagogy into a practical toolkit for our daily workflows?
Well, the paper distills this into a few highly actionable principles. The first is to always design for retained control.
Meaning, don't let the algorithm set the agenda from minute one.
Right. Practically, this means you must set your goals before you open the AI interface. If you are starting a project, write down your parameters, your intended tone, and your core arguments on a physical piece of paper first.
Before you even open the browser.
Exactly. Because if you just open the chat box and ask the AI to do the initial brainstorming without any constraints from you, the algorithm will instantly define the boundaries of your thinking. You become the passenger before the trip even begins.
The second principle the paper suggests is to scaffold explicit reflection, which involves forcing yourself to hit that cognitive break we talked about. And the paper suggests keeping an AI audit trail.
Yeah, don't just save the final polished output the AI gives you. Keep the entire transcript of your prompts and annotate it.
Like adding notes to the document.
Exactly. Write down notes on why you rejected a certain paragraph the AI generated, or why you had to refine your prompt 3 times to get a usable answer. By documenting the friction, you are actively exercising your critical thinking skills. You are making your epistemic vigilance visible.
Okay, but realistically, keeping a diary of every single prompt I type sounds kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, but does anyone actually have the time to do this in a fast-paced corporate job where you're constantly under deadline?
It's a fair pushback, and no, it doesn't mean writing a novel for every prompt. Think of it less like a diary and more like showing your math. Let's walk through a hypothetical scenario.
Sure.
Imagine you were tasked with writing a Q3 marketing strategy.
Okay, I'm the marketing director. The deadline is in 3 hours.
The low-agency passenger version of this workflow looks like the same. You panic, you type, Write a Q3 marketing strategy for a mid-sized tech company into the AI. It spits out 5 generic pillars. You copy it, tweak a few adjectives, and email it to your boss.
I mean, I save time.
You save time, but your strategic thinking muscles weren't used at all. You just facilitated the AI's generic thoughts.
And the high agency pilot version.
The pilot version starts with design for retained control. You sketch out your 3 core goals on a notepad. Then you prompt the AI, draft a strategy focusing on these 3 specific goals. It generates a response, but let's say it includes a tactic that doesn't fit your market.
Like it suggests something totally off-brand.
Right. And here is where the audit trail comes in. You don't just delete it. You drop a quick comment in your document. Rejected AI's suggestion for TikTok ads. Our primary demographic is B2B decision makers on LinkedIn.
Oh, I see.
That one sentence of annotation forces you to explicitly state your strategic reasoning. It takes 10 seconds, but it forces your brain into critical reflection.
If I have to explain to myself why the AI's first draft was bad, I'm actively evaluating it, not just passively consuming it. I'm building the mental map. And that leads right into the final practical takeaway, which is to value process over product.
Yes. In an age where AI can instantly generate a flawless-looking product, a beautifully formatted report, a persuasive essay, a complex block of code, the product itself is no longer the sole indicator of competence. You need to shift how you measure value.
Because anyone can generate a good-looking product now.
Exactly. Stop measuring success by how fast you or your team can retrieve and format information. Start measuring success by how well you can synthesize, contextualize, and verify the claims the AI is making.
It's the difference between asking your team, did we get the report done by 5 p.m., and asking, do we actually understand the strategic implications of what this report says, or did the computer just write it for us?
The distinctly human value moving forward is in the synthesis and the judgment, not the raw generation of text.
Which brings us to the ultimate summary of this entire deep dive. Generative AI, for all its magic and all its hype, is not fundamentally a brain builder, nor is it fundamentally a brain rotter. The technology itself is entirely neutral.
Completely neutral.
It is neither inherently empowering nor inherently disempowering. The outcomes you get depend entirely on the posture you take when you sit down at the keyboard. Do you treat the AI as a cognitive prosthesis that amplifies your own executive capacity, or do you treat it as a cognitive surrogate that replaces your judgment so you can basically take a nap in the passenger seat?
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a reminder that in a world increasingly saturated with algorithmic answers, we must continually fight to remain the executive decision makers in our own digital lives.
Yeah.
The AI can generate, it can suggest, it can format, but epistemic responsibility, the burden of truth, the burden of ethical judgment, and the burden of true understanding must always, always rest with the human.
It's about keeping your hands firmly on the wheel, even when the car offers to drive itself. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. We talked at the very beginning about the map versus the GPS. Human cognitive muscles, just like physical muscles, they're built through the productive struggle of learning.
Yep, the resistance.
Exactly. They're built through the friction of trying to understand something difficult. Generative AI is explicitly designed by its creators to completely remove that friction. It is designed to give us instant, fluent, frictionless answers. So if the friction is where the growth actually happens, how do you plan to artificially reintroduce beneficial friction into your daily life to ensure your critical thinking skills don't atrophy?
It's a great question to reflect on.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.